we been making progress? Let me start with that. Have we been making progress, Sylvia?
Yeah, I think, first of all, this is a very important season, I think, for anybody in the gender space, but I don't want to limit it to the gender space because we all live in the same society, which is more or less half men and women. So this affects all of us. Has there been progress? Maybe we need to see where we're coming from to know where we are and then determine whether there's progress. But I think as an intro, I would say, yes, there has been progress, but a lot more needs to be done. So I'll say that from a regional perspective, and I know Campbell and Rachel here will talk about it much more deeply from a Kenyan perspective. But there's progress, although it's kind of mixed. It's a mixed bag. We have issues such as conflict, humanitarian crisis, and other such issues which have rolled back some of the gains. We are still recovering from some of the effects of COVID on GBV, including SGBV. When I talk about conflict, of course, we think about countries like Sudan, which are really still very much in the thick of it. And there are some data points that are very alarming, like 6.7 million people in the country are at risk of GBV, and some of those include men and boys. So, to answer you in short but long, is there progress? There is, but there are a lot of red flags as well.
Rachel, you work as Groots Kenya, you work in the grassroots. That's the Groot part of the, the grassroots. And I'm sure you deal a lot with these cases, on a daily basis. Is this an increase? Is it more awareness? How would you describe it? Because presently, the whole country is actually talking about, is having this conversation about, femicide and all, and GBV, SGBV, right? So is it that we are now more aware, and so there's higher awareness and therefore higher reporting, or is it that there's an increase?
I would say both, Latiff. Both, in the sense that, yes, is that awareness, and now because people are speaking up. A lot of the campaigns that we've been running for many, couple of years now, is we say, speak up, speak out, do not be silent. So we believe that, yes, there's quite a number of women and young women and, all those who are affected who are speaking up. But at the same time, Latiff, there is an increase that is undisputable because we are all here in Kenya and we are watching the news and we are seeing what's happening. But at Groots Kenya stands for Grassroots Organizations Operating Together in Sisterhood. We have who we call GBV responders. They are gender-based violence responders who are Okoh, tunasemanga mashinani in the communities. And what they're telling us is that every other time they are being called, there's an alarm, there's a call, a distress call, an SOS call to help of a young woman, of an old woman, the diversity of it all. When you think about how we started this year, Latiff, we started this year with a march. We're calling it the Femicide March. And if there's any indicator is to see how many people were on the streets, over 10,000. And these are organic people who came up to really say we are here to speak up. So when we think in terms of increase, I would say both in terms of reporting, but also in terms of what tunasikia huko kwa ground. The other statistic that was very recent is the one that has also gotten us really angry and really becomes very unacceptable, because what we are saying is that every single day in the last 3 months, there's been a woman who has died because of femicide. Dying because you exist as a woman. I think then we can, confidently say the increase is on both from where we sit.
That's bringing the statistician. Okay. Now, this is now where we should have the undisputed data. Is there an increase? And is the increase attributable to awareness, or is it just attributable to actually cases of gender-based violence increasing?
Yes, thank you, Eric. I think from my perspective in the context of data, I would say that there's been a lot of progress in terms of even the ability to be able to measure the cases of gender-based violence. And so it's quite important that also to policymakers, they are really able to see that the impacts of some of the policies that are coming up are informed by evidence. And by this, I would like to refer back to currently in the country, we have GBV as one of the triple threats alongside HIV and teenage pregnancy. And so along with that, you'll see that based on the 2022 demographic and health survey done in Kenya, just to give an example, you'll see that when you look at the percentage of women and girls, of course those in the age of 15 to 49 who have been subjected to who had been subjected to physical violence, especially in their lifetime, you'd see that it was quite high in terms of also looking at some of the counties like Bungoma, where it was at 62%. And so these are some of the, like now Bungoma also as a county, you'll notice that even when you look at sexual violence, it's still one of the counties that sexual violence is high. Nationally, based on that survey, it was at 34%. But then...
I apologize.
Yes.
When you say sexual violence, what do you mean?
Of course, sexual violence comes in or is measured in various aspects. And one of them is, when the survivor is subjected to doing forced sexual acts, or rather, they are either subjected to situations like rape and all that against their wish or their consent, then that amounts to sexual violence. And
this data covers the entire country.
This data covers the entire country.
So let me give you my raw interpretation of what you're saying.
Yes.
That there are counties that have more rapists than others.
Countries where rape occurs more frequently than others.
No, rape doesn't occur on its own.
Okay.
There is somebody who perpetrates it.
Indeed.
Yes.
So is it a reporting issue that more people are more aware, so they report more of these incidents? Or is it that there are actual incidences of rape and that the reporting measure is the same, but what is reported in some of these areas is more than others, as I said, which equals the perpetrators and rapists are more in this particular place than others?
I think this is why we undertake surveys, to really be able to help to get the real information, and especially from the victims or the survivors in this case. And as you are putting it, of course, there's been that advocacy efforts that have been put across board. And so it's really important that we are also able to collect or gather data so that we are able to also get to understand. Because if you look at the statistics, you'll realize that 71% of the perpetrators, are like intimate partners, either the husbands or the male partners to women who are in union. And interestingly, you still see that most of these survivors, when you look at the referral pathway, they begin with first going to the family members, who in some instances could also be the perpetrators. So in that context, then you'll realize that to some extent, they could also be in a way be intimidated, for them to come out and report some of these cases. And mind you, there are some communities in the country where you'll find that they would rather resort to alternative dispute resolution mechanism, whereby they do not want to go through the non-judicial system. And this is why we keep on ensuring that there is more frequent data. So from the 2022 Demographic and Health Survey, currently the National Statistics Office is again planning to undertake another mini Demographic and Health Survey. And so we'll also be looking forward to see that these cases are somehow also reducing, and most importantly, that the survivors are also being able to get justice. And that's why you'll see that across the country, there are a number of counties that have been able to come up with sexual and gender-based violence policies, which have in turn informed the creation of SGBV courts, so that the survivors are able to really get justice within the shortest time possible.
Can you collect this data?
Yes.
Is there anywhere where you consider the relationships that men have in these communities have with women? One, men have with women understanding their sexual or reproductive rights, and B, the position that women have in these communities, because it can't be that there is that degree of violence being meted against women without us asking ourselves, okay, how exactly do men relate to women in this particular community, or how? Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there, and I think in a previous conversation we talked about the interlinkage with poverty. That's a huge determining factor, because the less empowered women are, and that's why we keep harping on women economic empowerment, and that's part of our mandate as UN Women for gender equality and women empowerment, because we recognize even from anecdotal data that once women are empowered financially, they are less likely to be subjected to some of these practices, right? Even harmful traditional practices, like even FGM and the rest, which are also considered part of GBV. So maybe we should even have started by unpacking what is this GBV, what does it entail? It includes economic violence as well. Of course, there's emotional violence, right? Under SGBV, which is sexual GBV, we also talk about defilement and incest, right? Child marriage as well. Those are all instances of GBV. But to answer your question, Siti, about these incidents with intimate partner violence, the numbers in Kenya actually resonate with the global figures, right? So the figures that we have this year for 16 days of activism against GBV, every 10 minutes, a woman is killed globally. That was from 2023 data, global data. The year before that, it was every 11 minutes. What does
global
that say?
Data is an aggregate, is it not?
It is.
Yes.
It is, but the data actually triangulates within itself, if you can see. Those numbers resonate. Even the numbers that we got globally for GBV in COVID, when you disaggregate them down to the regional level, even as Campbell is saying, down to counties, you would find they actually resonate with the numbers that were being seen at the global level. For example, Kenya was one of the unfortunate shiners because now to answer your question of whether is it more reporting or the higher incidence, there was a rise, I think, to, is it 743% or 700 and something percent increase in GBV reporting during COVID. Yes, I said what I said. Yes, I know, I had to look at that number.
I'm not doubting you.
Because I thought it was a typo.
700 and what percent?
700 and I think 43%, 700 and something percent increase in reporting during COVID. Of course, we know the drivers being locked in with perpetrators. But again, we see that higher incidences of GBV, especially SGBV, actually both physical and sexual, are perpetrated by people who are known to the victims.
Socioeconomic factors and how they contribute to this.
So I am a woman. I am at home during COVID, or even not during COVID. It could be just a regular day. Sina nguvu, sina uwezo, right? I have no job. I depend on my husband or significant other for everything. So I cannot raise my voice and complain if he does something that I do not like. Or if I make the mistake of over-salting the food, I'm using actual examples from data, or of dashing to the neighbors to pick something and leaving the children unattended for 5 minutes, I should expect a beating. Now, what's even more disheartening, and I would even say twisted, City, is that the perceptions of women and men when it comes to GBV are very shocking. There are many women who actually think it is okay. Like, do you deserve to be beaten for burning the food? And they say yes. Do you deserve to be beaten for going to the hospital? You talked about access to reproductive health care. That was one of the huge issues even during COVID. But you see, again, COVID just brought out these issues louder, but these were issues that were underlying already. Do I believe I should be beaten for going to the health clinic without asking permission from my husband? Yes, I do. Yenyewe nilikosea. But if I'm a quote-unquote empowered women, and empowerment is a very broad term. It's not just economic, there's also information. I mean, even access to a mobile phone is part of empowerment, Access to digital technology is another level of empowerment, If I'm empowered and I'm able to call my own shots and say, you know what, I'm going to go to the shop and there's nothing you're going to do about it because I bring as much as you do to the table, so to speak, then you see the differences. But you notice actually where poverty is higher, you're more likely to find prevalence of GBV is higher, or the incidence.
You know what I'm stuck on here?
Titi, I want us to take a break.
Then I will
just get stuck there for a bit.
I am consider myself stuck.
Very good. Yes. 22 minutes to 10. Our conversation today is on 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This begins on the 25th of November, going all the way to the 10th of December. Rachel Kagoya is the executive director at GROOTS Kenya. Sylvia Maina, regional gender communication specialist at UN Women for East and Southern Africa, and Campbell Oganga, who's a program specialist gender statistics advisor at UN Women in Kenya. Now, we've been talking about Standard Chartered and Priority Banking. Now, the email address is prioritybanking.ke@sc.com. prioritybanking.ke@sc.com. And this is because when you join the Standard Chartered Priority Banking, you'll have the support of trained, experienced relationship managers certified by the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments. So you ask them, bring your certification IC, they'll give it to you. They'll also tell you, they'll closely guide your wealth journey from bespoke advisory services to partnerships with trusted global fund houses like Allianz, Amundi, Franklin Templeton, and Alliance Bernstein. Your wealth is in expert hands. Imagine having your hard-earned wealth managed by people who completely understand your goals, but they also understand where best to put your money. This is what Standard Chartered is promising you today. They just say, join Priority Banking today. PriorityBanking.ke at SC. SC, not SE. SC.com. PriorityBanking.ke at Sylvia?
SC for cat.
SC, yes, .com. We'll be back shortly. Keep it here.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Every one of us is a child who can't wait to play. A child who can go wild playing games. And even wilder just talking about the game. A child who seriously cares about their friends. And takes their fun more seriously. Bring out all the fun, all the chaos on all the sports, local and international, with the greatest of all sports friends.
No. Liverpool's problem is just winning. It's a Republican Party problem. Let me tell you, clean sweep. You do the Senate, you do the Congress, and plus you get the president.
Trump.
That's Liverpool. And by the way, we wear red, just like the Republicans.
And you also speak nonsense. The Goops, Carol Radul, Kenny Githinji, and the great Roy Karuhize make their return on the playground. This Saturday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on SpiceFM 94.
Yes. New Life Prayer Center and Church chini ya Pastor Evangelist Ezekiel inakutangazia ibada kubwa ya meza ya Bwana.
Tunapokutana kwa mwili wa Yesu na damu ya Yesu, tunapeana chakula kwa yule mtu wa ndani.
Baraka za kufunga mwaka 2024, kupokea nyota, uponyaji, unabii pamoja na kufunguliwa kabisa. Ibada hii itafanyika tarehe 4 hadi tarehe 15 mwezi wa 12 2024. Mahali ni Mavueni, Mombasa nchini Kenya. Watu wa dini zote, watu wa mataifa yote mnakaribishwa.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, so what's happening on the weather today? It's warming up in Nairobi, currently at 20, partly sunny, highs of 25. Kakamega, sunny at 24, highs of 30, partly sunny in Mombasa. At 30, highs of 33. It's 31 right now in Malindi, highs of 33. Kisumu is currently 25, highs of 30. Sunny in Nakuru at 20, highs of 26. Nyeri is warming up, 19, highs of 25. Eldoret is sunny 21 and sunny, highs of 24 later. Johannesburg, 21 and sunny, highs of 28. Kinshasa has been raining all morning. Now 23, highs of 31. Mostly sunny in Lagos, highs of 26, highs of 32. Sunny in Mogadishu, highs of 32 as well. Sunny in Addis Ababa, highs of 23. Dar es Salaam, mostly sunny, highs of 32. Kampala, partly sunny at 23, highs of 27. Beijing, mostly sunny. It's the warmest it's going to be this afternoon. It's 8. Then the temperatures will start dropping nicely to a frozen temperature of 0 degrees. Paris, 7 and cloudy, highs of 11. Cloudy as well in London at 7, highs of 8. In New York, it's partly cloudy tonight at 10, highs of 18.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Again, that email address, prioritybanking.ke at sc.com. You know, when you hear an email that has a dot and then an at, you're wondering, what kind of email is this? Prioritybanking.ke at sc, that sc is for standardchartered.com. Talk to them, please. Let them usher you into priority banking. Put your money there, let it start growing, and then protect it. Sit among people and tell me, when now my money is being invested in, I hear Beijing is now doing very, so my money is there. It's a thing to talk about. Okay.
And also remember, Standard Chartered has a global reach.
Very good.
Yes, it does.
Very good.
And many a time people learn, understand, even make money. And then there's a question of, okay, I've bought plots. I haven't bought a house. What else do I do with my money? Now that is where you go to Standard Chartered. They tell you, my friend, thank you for coming. There's a whole new world that I want to introduce you to. And they will.
Yes.
And your money will actually find work to do. And in so doing, as Eric puts it, your money will make you more money.
Very good.
While you are sleeping.
Especially when you're sleeping.
So, City, unfreeze yourself.
Consider myself unfrozen. There is a certain correlation between, one, the socio-economic factors that people have within communities, and that brings about what we call a gender or balance or imbalance, or whatever it is. However, much as that reason has sufficient data to support it, it has been used as an excuse to support trends and practices that should have been outmoded and outlawed a long time ago.
Correct.
Because how is it that some communities believe that beating up women is a good thing? Forcing women to do things they may not particularly want to do is a good thing. How on earth does that become something that you can laud and say it is a cultural norm? And you actually voice it and talk about it as though it is something that everybody should understand that it is normal. When a very key member of that particular community doesn't quite agree with you. So it means their view is completely disregarded.
But also in this day and age, all right, so many years after the UN highlighted this issue, so many years after the government of Kenya even also picked up this issue, it's been a number of years since President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya said, we are committed to ending GBV in Kenya by 2026. We are now coming to 2025. By 2026 means next year is when we are eliminating it. But we're still seeing it on the rise. What you've just given us, Canbella's statistics, Bungoma, 34% incidents of sexual violence.
That was national. Then 17.
17 in Bungoma.
In Bungoma.
That is very high, Bwana. That is very high, Bwana.
High, exactly.
Bungoma is not one of those, you can say it, it's an outward, far county that doesn't have much information, that doesn't have much presence of government. This is not.
I would say that I wanted to follow into the discussion you were having with Sylvia, that Bungoma, be as it may, when you look at poverty rates, they are also not quite low. They are significantly high. I remember from the integrated household budget survey done by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, around Bungoma having still 53% in terms of poverty rates, relatively compared to other counties around that region. And so from what Sylvia was talking about, when you look at the issues of empowerment, then you'll realize that normally controlling behaviors are normally the precursors to gender-based violence in terms of denying the woman to be able to speak to other people or insisting that they must be able to be granted permission, if they want to move to see their relatives and all that. So this is what in turn then graduates now to gender-based violence. And if you look at now in totality, the combination in terms of the various forms of violence, that is the physical violence, sexual violence, and psychological violence, then you'll realize that across the board, I want to give an example, Stephen, as you are saying that from the Lake region, it may not be high, but surprisingly, counties like Migori, you have Homa Bay, you have
Kisumu.
Busia, and also Siaya. These are counties that the rate of gender-based violence in terms of the three elements I've talked about is up above 40%.
I don't come from those places.
And so, so from the region.
Like for Kisumu City, I can tell you discerning. Actually, it's one of the hotspots marked by Kenya government.
Wow.
So Mombasa was one of them.
Yeah.
There's Kisumu, I can't remember the other counties, but they all have those specialized SGBV courts.
You will find counties that have major cities, because the thing with major cities, you also have low-income dwellings, and you have crowding, and those come with a completely different set of dynamics. Yes. So yes, the representation will be high in some of these. There's a reason why I mentioned, you asked about women and the freedoms that they have. it's often manifested by someone's ability to vocalize, to speak out. And I was telling you, the community I come from, women are vocal. But not all. Culturally, they were permitted to be vocal. That over time, because of the changing social norms and values, and the focus on material wealth and the role it plays in the lives of people, that has bastardized that particular system that was there. But violence was not something that, if you look at any community in this country, violence was not something that was accepted.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't, but it's true. Urbanization has played a very big role. But there's still the element of social, cultural kind of thinking. There's a patriarchy. At UN Women, there's something we keep saying about the patriarchy pushing back. So it's all these gains that we've made, it may sound surprising, but they have angered a lot of people. I was looking back at the comments on our last discussion on the YouTube channel, and what shocked me, but also did not shock me, was the level of pushback from especially young people, young men, who are like, actually the reason that we're in this place with gender empowerment, GBV, is because we've listened to too many Western ideals. That's number one. And we've lost our culture. Mwachamila ni mtumwa. That was the argument. Number two, the other argument was that women have been over-empowered. And that has hurt men's egos. I'm telling you from the comments.
Is there such a thing as over-empowerment?
That's a very good question. It depends on now how we define the empowerment. What are the parameters you're looking at? But I wouldn't say there's such a thing as over-empowerment.
So the argument there was that women have been
over-empowered. So it has injured men's egos. Yes, so it's destabilized society. Right, so that's why men are retaliating. That was the argument in the comments. I've heard this a lot on social media as well.
Okay, let's discuss that for a bit.
Yeah,
is there?
It's an important point.
Is there an issue that because you at the grassroots, Rachel, you deal with communities, right?
Yes.
Is there a feeling among men that they are being emasculated? When the women are becoming more and more aware, more empowered economically, information-wise, and all, it's emasculating the men.
You know what, Latiff?
I don't know.
When you're talking about violence against women and gender-based violence, there are many layers to it. Deeply rooted with the many layers is power, is patriarchy, is culture, is religion, is all those enablers of inequalities and discrimination and oppression. So we cannot isolate a conversation that's talking about empowerment and violence and remove it from those deeply rooted, those entrenched practices that have existed for decades. I'll give an example of what we have in terms of also data now that we're talking about gender data. At Groots Kenya, remember I talked about gender-based violence responders who respond to GBV in the communities. Between December 2023 and October this year, which is like a year, right? The GBV responders have already responded to 1,059 cases. And these are people that they have been able to touch their lives and respond to and pursue them for justice, pursue them for legal actions, pursue them for medical and psychosocial support, move them to the shelters and safe spaces to be able to have a place where they can pursue other things. Out of these 1,059, this is within 3 counties. This is in Kiambu, this is in Kakamega, and this is in Tana River. Out of the 1,059, 443 are in Kiambu, 438 are in Kakamega, 178 is Tana River. But interestingly, out of the 1,059, 8 or 9 cases have been perpetrated by people who are known. And out of that 8 or 9, 736 are men within the communities that are already known. And this is data that we already have. Out of that number, we also have persons with disabilities. 30 cases of persons with disability. Out of these 1,059 that I'm talking about are women across different ages. In short, what we're trying to say, the data has a way of layering and showing these intersections, or being able to say what is the question that you're asking, City, why, what is really happening. It is heavily, deeply rooted on systems of inequalities, systems of oppression, discrimination that are continuously rotating within these communities.
You know what I love about what you've said, Rachel, if I can just jump in. Kiambu, is it number 1, 2, 3 in terms of wealth in Kenya? I know it's among the top 5, right?
On the list.
On the list, right? Yeah, it's been up and down. You've said that they have the highest number out of those 1059.
Yes,
that
yes.
has intrigued me. And Tana River has the lowest, 173.
Because we have to unlayer.
Exactly.
So let's think about what is happening in Tana River in terms of culture, in terms of religion. I think Campbell alluded to it. There's something called maslaha in terms of how they also want to address issues to do with GBV when it's reported. They want to do it with the kangaroo courts. So we cannot just isolate it and just use one. And then let's also remember violence happens in many forms. We're talking about violence that happens on our technology, the technology facilitated violence. We're talking about sexual violence, emotional violence, economic violence. Like there's so many rape, there's so many layers of violence that just when you're here seated thinking that because women are vocal in your community, then they're not experiencing violence. And then voila, they are actually experiencing violence when they are online. Because according to the statistics in 2022, many women who were vying for various political positions, the statistics tells us in 2022, 55% of women were attacked online. They actually experience online violence. So it's being able to look at it, because it's multi-layered, it's messy, because that's how society is. But it's being able to say, what actions can we be able to do? How are we responding? How are we going ahead in terms of prevention? But most importantly, how are we using data and analyzing that data so that it's informing our actions?
Let me understand. So the online violence, women tend to get the longer end of this particular stick than the men.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
And the perpetrators of this violence also tend to be men.
Yes,
Correct.
actually there's a study, University of Nairobi, the Women Economic Center, I think they did this with UNFPA. And I'm just reading, male students were identified as the top perpetrators, 78.6%, of technology-facilitated GBV, like Rachel has said, followed by female students, 11%. And male teaching staff also threw their cards in at 5%.
Has it been asked, or if it has been asked, what has been the response to asking, why is it that even, because you're talking about a patriarchy, you think of older creatures like myself, but now you're talking about university, young people expressing these violent thoughts and views. Why?
My take? And I'll again emphasize I'm a Gen X, contrary to popular opinion. It's the territorial thing of, listen, this is our space, you're coming into our space. Typically or traditionally or conventionally, whichever word we'll use, men had the money, men had the say, men had the power. So we're in this dilemma where there's a shift. Yeah, there's a seismic shift. Actually,
but that shift started a long time ago.
It did, but it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
It's also the normalization, because when it happens, nothing happens to me.
There you go.
So I'll just come and do whatever it is that I need. The platform owners will not come after me. The legal whatever will not cover. The law enforcers will not cover me.
There's also something on
I just wake up and
I
I do the same.
I'll continue.
It takes a much longer time
And it takes much longer
But let me
time.
ask the question. Let me ask the question. The system that we speak of that is now pushing back was a system that favored men.
Yeah.
When you talk about equality, you talk about equity, then the imbalance that was there will be felt as an imbalance against them, because the privilege that was previously there is now being lost.
I love the word privilege. Yes.
So when the privilege is lost, one is saying, it's like you're denying me more or less a birthright.
Yeah.
And
these are my sweets. Why are you taking some? Yeah, I know you have no sweets, but these are mine.
Yes, but then when the economic issues come in again in my mind is when you're not able to fulfill that role that you covet as a man because of circumstances beyond your control, then your response seems to be violence, because you can't be the man that you're supposed to be.
Supposedly. And actually, there's a recent study that we've done again at the regional level. I'll keep bringing the regional voice because we want to see Kenya is not an island. Yeah, we want to see these are common in the context that we are in the sub-Saharan Africa that Latiff talked about. But toxic masculinity is one of the things that was identified in this regional study. And it says that it doesn't only harm women and girls, but it also harms men because of this kind of twisted thinking. There's also the factor of alcoholism. When you talk about Kiambu being one of the high numbers, I'm not surprised in a sense. As much as women, they are vocal, there's money in that county, but there's other vices that contribute.
Yeah. Is alcohol a problem or a symptom?
A problem. It's a problem.
Consider It could be a symptom. Why do you have a situation where people decide to climb into the bottle? What is it? And then it's
driving
widespread.
them there?
What's driving them there?
Right. So, well, the conversation continues, right?
Yes.
16 days of activism begin on the 25th all the way to the 10th of December, and we shall have conversations through the 16 days of activism. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, right? Rachel Kagoya, Executive Director, Groots Kenya, Sylvia Maina, Regional Gender Communications Specialist at UN Women, East and Southern Africa, and north of the Limpopo, south of the Sahara, not going into East, West, and West, and where.
Exactly.
And Canbelo Ganga, who is the Program Specialist for Gender Statistics at UN Women in Kenya. This has been Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Have a lovely Monday. We'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday from 6 a.m. It's now what time? It's 10
a.m.
Thank you.